I do feel sorry for Ben Affleck. Everyone thought he was going to be the reason this movie was not going to be good, and then he was actually great. Just the rest of it wasn't really great. So, Batman v Superman is about, well, spoilers. It's called Batman v Superman. Lex Luthor's in it. You can probably predict what it's going to be about. Well, kind of. This film is 2.5 hours long, and I could not coherently explain to you why Batman and Superman were fighting. It's a bit of a weird one. And I must say, I'm not a DC hater, but I'm not a massive DC fan. I don't know much about it. I didn't like Man of Steel, which was the start of the DCU. And this was kind of as bleak as I didn't want it to be. I was hoping there would be something that made it slightly less dark than Man of Steel. I don't mean dark as in like content, I mean dark as in the screen was just constantly dark. I did have quite a few problems with this film, but none of them were particularly blinding. I don't think this was a bad film. This was in no way a bad film. I didn't dislike it. It was just a bit long. And there was a whole lot going on, but also not a lot going on. There were times where I was watching it and I just thought, wow, this is a really nice 2.5 hour commercial for Justice League and Wonder Woman, because really Wonder Woman was just kind of shoehorned into this film. If she was not there, it wouldn't make a difference really. I really liked the opening of this film. I loved the sequence with Batman and introducing Batman and his past and, you know, the origin of Batman that we all know, we've seen a million times with his parents. But I really liked the way they did it in this film. They did it in about 2 or 3 minutes and I really loved how it was shown. There was a really pretty shot with the necklace. I won't spoil exactly how it's used, but if you've seen it and you've seen the necklace, you know what I'm talking about. I loved that shot. I thought it was really, really gorgeous. But then sometimes I felt like the pretty shots they were trying to do went a bit too far. Like there were so many slow motion dramatic walking shots of people that I was just thinking, okay, you can do it once, that's fine. If you just keep doing it and elongate this film even more, I don't need to see it. I don't need any more slow motion shots of someone walking through a field. Okay, you've seen it once, I've seen it enough times. I don't need to see it again over and over throughout this 2.5 hour long film. Did I mention this film was 2.5 hours? One thing I did like, I said in the beginning, Ben Affleck I really liked in this film. And he was the thing that people were worried about the most, I'd say. They were worried because Ben Affleck, he has his history, he has his track record of not many great decisions, but he was a really good Batman. He was a really good older Batman and a more kind of seasoned Batman. But when there's a good casting, there's also a bad casting, and unfortunately, that came in the form of Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I love Jesse Eisenberg. I absolutely adore him. I think he's great. But Lex Luthor just annoyed the absolute crap out of me. Literally, it just... I can't even put it into words. He just annoyed me so much. And I've kind of decided that while Henry Cavill looks a lot like Superman and is very pretty to look at, not a very great actor. I mean, he wasn't given an awful lot to work with. He didn't really have many lines, to be fair, and a lot of the ones he did have were cheesy and corny as hell. Okay, I had these really annoying people sat behind me in the cinema the entire time that wouldn't shut up, but the only time I agreed with anything they said was during one of the most cheesy lines I've ever heard in a film ever, and they just sighed. They just went, ugh. And you know what? If I didn't have the etiquette I have in the cinema, I probably would have done it too. People need to start coming up with new cheesy lines, because sometimes cheesiness is okay, but when it's the same cheesy lines over and over, that's when it gets annoying. I found a lot of the battles a bit dull as well. I felt like I'd seen them all many, many times. I had a problem with the battle, the one that you see kind of hinted to in the trailer, where Superman, Wonder Woman and Batman are all on the line and they're facing off against something. That battle annoyed me mainly because of the sound. I felt like it was all too quiet. It was trying to be really big and dramatic and yeah, and then everything was quiet. Like every single time someone hit something or went crashing into something, the thud was just way too quiet. And the music was not exactly booming as it was, and they were quieter than the music. Lois Lane is also confirmed dishwater. Literally, she's just so dull. It's like there's so many times Lois Lane tries to do something and then does not succeed in trying to do those things and just has to be saved by a man. And It's like, why can't Lois Lane actually do something for once? That'd be a nice change. And the pacing of the entire film was off. It just started to get so muddled, and every time something new started to happen, I was just thinking, okay, 1, why is this happening? 2, why am I seeing this? And 3, why do I care? And ultimately the bottom line was I didn't care. I didn't care about a lot of the things they were showing me on the screen. I was just like, can we just get to something that's actually relevant and I actually care about? Like Batman's dream sequences, I thought they were just really strange. I wasn't sure why they were there, why they thought they needed to put those in, unless it's like hinting towards something that's going to happen to Batman in the future films. But it's like, if you're not going to make anything out of it in this film, I don't really need to see it. This film is long enough as it is. I don't need it dragged out by stuff I'm not going to understand by the end of it. And ultimately, I do agree that some of the early reviews for this film calling it the reason Marvel should watch out, I agree that they were probably plants, because there is no way that this film is an example of why Marvel should watch out. It's simply not. So while I understand why people are going to like it, I didn't dislike this film. I just couldn't really pick out many things that I liked over things that I had faults with, because the story was just all over the place, and it wasn't actually that much of a complex story, but they made it complex by just dragging it out and adding in pointless scenes that they just didn't need, that just added issues that did not amount to anything. Obviously, I'm still going to see any DC film that comes out, because I'm not suffering from superhero fatigue. I love superhero movies. I just was not a fan of this one. I was not a fan of Man of Steel, and I really do hope that Suicide Squad picks it up and just adds a bit of colour, adds a bit of life, because this just didn't really have much life. And after seeing this superhero face-off movie, all I can say is Civil War cannot come fast enough. See you guys.